Thank you for joining us today on the show. Very special guest, somebody that a lot of people call the best deathmatch wrestler on the scene today. Today I'm joined by Alex Cologne. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, what's going on, man? It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Honestly, man, the pleasure is all ours because I'll be completely honest, you're a name that I've only started watching as of maybe early last year. I think it was GCW. But I often say this, you're one of those names that when I saw you wrestle, I was like, how have I not been following this guy for longer? Like, you've been everywhere. You've done so much.
I've been around for a long time.
You've been around for a long time. And it's like, I must have seen you at some point over your career somewhere else because you blew me away. I think it was a match with Zachary Wentz that you had. I think it was a death match in GCW.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was a great story told. And again, I'll be honest, that deathmatch wrestling hasn't always been my cup of tea. But I've spoken to quite a few deathmatch wrestlers over the last year. And it's really opened my eyes to what deathmatch wrestling is and what it's about and how it can be just as much of a compelling story as any other match. And it's really turned me around. And your match with Zachary Wentz told a beautiful story. There's this guy who's trying to prove himself in the deathmatch scene, trying to go up against one of the best in the scene today yourself. And the story told is brilliant. I mean, that's like I said, pleasure's all ours to have you on. Like I said, you're one of the best deathmatch wrestlers there is. You won me over for a start.
Thank you. I mean, that's the goal, right? Like, especially, it's a different generation. When I started, deathmatch wrestling was kind of all over the place. Like, you had people that incorporated a lot of wrestling, but then you had also people who were just more hack and slash. They would hit each other with stuff. And right now, deathmatch wrestling is at a high. Like, we're adding a lot more wrestling elements. We're trying to add a lot more story into the match. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean? Like I always say, sometimes a story doesn't have to go on for months. It could literally just be a story confined in one match.
Absolutely. And like,
I feel like that's where we're at with deathmatch wrestling.
Is like, it's not just hack and slash now. Yourself, you can do a bit of everything. I've seen you do high flying. I've seen you do some brilliant technical stuff too. Is that like a conscious effort on your part to say like, hey, I'm not just a hack and slash deathmatch wrestler. I can do anything you want me to do. I can do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't start out a deathmatch wrestler. I mean, that was initially when I started training to become a wrestler. I kind of wanted to do that. That was the avenue I wanted to go in, but it just didn't work out that way. I ended up focusing more on just regular wrestling. So then 10 years in, I became real close with Danny Havoc at the time, and we bonded, and he brought me into the deathmatch scene. And my goal was just to do it, add a little bit into it, because not everybody was a wrestler's wrestler. So I wrestled some of the best wrestlers in the world, guys who are on TV, guys who have contracts, so I felt like I could bring that experience that I had just in a wrestling aspect into the deathmatch world. And I feel like it's honestly helped, like me. And then obviously the core group of guys you see me in the ring with a lot. Like, we've managed to kind of raise the bar for deathmatch wrestling, and by incorporating wrestling and stories and really trying to hammer it in there, that we're not just guys that go out there and bleed. We're not just guys that go out there and hit each other with whatever is laying in the ring. Like, we can do that, but we also we've been trained to become wrestlers, so we're exhibiting that along with the weapons and all the shenanigans that happen in the match.
Yeah, what was the transition like for you? You said like you weren't always a deathmatch wrestler. You were a wrestler's wrestler to start with, and then you became a deathmatch wrestler. How did you find that transition? Was it like a shock to the system going from,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely. It was a little scary at first because you don't know what to expect in these matches. They could get downright dangerous. It could get dirty. It could get very bloody. And when you're not someone who's used to bleeding buckets, like the minute you're bleeding buckets, you're panicking. You're not sure what to do. Your body goes into fight or flight. And it was very nerve-wracking. I remember after I did the first one, I was just dumbfounded, and I was like, I don't know how you guys do this. I was like, man, like just the amount of pain.
I'm still there, dude. I have no idea how you do it.
Like, Dude, even in the match, it's like your adrenaline's pumping, so you're not feeling as much as you would if you were just going in cold.
Yeah.
But you loss of blood, you know what I mean? As well as you're going 15 to 20 minutes regularly in a lot of death matches. And then you're adding on the cardio of a regular wrestling match. Like, you're spent by the end of these matches. And I literally was in the back after my first real death match, just slumped over, just asking myself, is this really what I want to get myself into? And after the next couple ones, I grew to love the style of deathmatch wrestling, and that's when I became officially, in my eyes, a deathmatch wrestler.
How do you prepare for a death match, dude? I mean, like it's hard enough watching a death match sometimes, like thinking, how do you guys go out there knowing the amount of violence that's coming and actually do it and go through with it? Me, I'd run away. Like, I won't be able to do that kind of stuff. Watching it, I admire it so much, but how do you prepare for it?
I feel like it's more so mental over physical, because I can speak for myself. I'm a pig in the kitchen. So I'm not out there with 6-pack abs and running cardio for 2 hours straight. I obviously do hit the gym, but outside of that, when you're preparing for a death match, it's more so mental than it is the physical gain. I mean, physically you could be in amazing shape, but mentally you might not be ready for what a death match, can entail. And that's, you could get cut bad.
Mm.
You could literally go in a death match. You could end up leaving a death match kind of unscathed, or you can leave a death match really badly hurt to where you have to go to the hospital. I mean, I can't, on my fingers, I can't count how many times I've been to the hospital after a death match. But like, it's more of a mental game, man. Like, when I'm out there right before my music hits, I'm in the curtain, I'm trying to get myself mentally prepared. Like, I try to become a completely different human being. Like, everybody will tell you outside of wrestling, I'm pretty chill. I'm pretty nice guy. I talk to everybody who talks to me. I try to be friendly with everyone and be nice for the most part. I have my moments, we all do. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. Like, you got to be a savage. If you're not ready, you're definitely gonna sink in them waters.
Yeah, I can tell that just by speaking with you now for like the last 5 minutes. You seem like a chill guy, and then I've seen you in the ring, and you're the last person I'd want to fuck with. Like, you've just got that switch where
Yeah.
obviously you can go in that ring and you have to become somebody else in that death match. Do you think for that reason, like with Zachary Wentz, for example, I feel like he did an amazing job in that death match he had. Do you feel like anyone can be a deathmatch wrestler, or is it a completely mental thing where only a certain amount of people can do deathmatch wrestling?
I feel like anyone can be a deathmatch wrestler, but not everybody, or everyone can do a deathmatch. Let me rephrase it. Everyone can do a deathmatch,
Yeah,
but not everybody can be a deathmatch wrestler.
right.
Because to be able to do one, maybe two, three is one thing. But to be able to do it consistently throughout years, like you're running the gambit every weekend, sometimes every weekend. There was literally 1 month I remember having a light tube match every weekend, and it was physically exhausting. So I personally had to tone it down a little bit, because healing times are crazy, man. We're talking 2 to 3 weeks for at least a guy my age in his 30s to heal. The younger guys, they heal faster. It's different. But it's a gambit. Not everybody can be a deathmatch wrestler. It takes a lot of you have to mentally be prepared. And there have been times where I've had to scale it back, or I need to take a month off or something, because mentally I was exhausted. I just wasn't there. I wasn't into feeling like, oh man, I have to go through all this hell essentially to get to the end of the tunnel. And you scale it back, you come back, and then you just become mentally refreshed. But it's all a mental game with deathmatch wrestling. And I do feel like a lot of guys want to do death matches, or they want to do one. Everybody, they want to get that I don't want to say clout. They want to get that stigma that, oh, I did a
Yeah,
death match. Now people look at me as being a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like more of a
yeah,
badass.
yeah.
And doing one's cool, but like for guys like me, this is what we do. We don't look at it like that. It's like, oh, we're not, this is what we do. Like, this is our style of wrestling. We've helped mature and cultivate this style into what it is now. And it's been years and years that guys like me, Schlack, Marcus Crane, Eric Ryan, Orin Veidt, like tons of guys coming up, John Wayne Murdoch, Reed Bentley,
Yeah.
tons of guys that are here, and even tons of guys like Akira, guys that are coming up. Like, we're cultivating this environment where it's not just death matches, it's deathmatch wrestling, but we also let people know, hey, we're not just letting you in our world. It just doesn't work like that. Like, you have to earn the respect of the guys in these locker rooms, because there is a clear separation between a regular independent wrestling locker room a lot of times and an independent deathmatch wrestling locker room. So, it's like I said, it's everybody can do a death match, but not everybody can be a death match wrestler.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because we've spoken to some of those names you mentioned, like John Wayne Murdoch, Casanova Valentine. There's there's who else have spoke to you recently? Brandon Kerr, for example. You know, their names are synonymous also with death matches, and they've also said, like, that's what they're all working towards right now, is getting rid of that stigma that existed. The stigma that I bought into at one point, where I just thought it's hack and slash. And I thought, I can't get into that. But then when I really looked at it, I could see it had changed. The product had changed. These were guys who could wrestle. They weren't just going out to hate each other for the sake of hating each other. They were going out to do deathmatch wrestling. You know, it's a form of wrestling. And just as like Lucha Libre, you've got your deathmatch. And when I could see it like that, I was like, this is great. I really do enjoy a good deathmatch now. And I'm happy I do. But it's because of guys like you putting in that hard work and making it what it is today. And on that note, can you see yourself doing this style of wrestling for the rest of your career? Like you said, each match takes it out of you. Will you ever slow it down to the point where you don't do any more death matches, or is this you for the rest of your career now?
I feel like this is me for whatever time I have left, because like I said, I've been wrestling a long time.
Yeah.
And there's some guys who are just coming in, so they have all these years, all these, they don't have notches in their belt.
Yeah.
Like hurt wise, like, and me being an older guy, like, you can only do this for so long before it really starts taking a toll on your body. So I feel like, yeah, this is possibly like almost like the last phase of me as a wrestler, is like being a deathmatch wrestler. If something else was to come up, if an opportunity was to spring up to help do something else outside of deathmatch wrestling, sure, but that's not my mind. Like, me being at the tail end of my mid 30s, like, it's this is who I am, and I have to embrace it. Like, I've gotten the opportunity to go to Japan and kind of see the top of the food chain in deathmatch wrestling, and there's a lot there for me still to feel like I'm goal oriented, I guess, to some degree. Like, it's because I check marked everything I felt like I needed to check mark it. After that, it was like, all right, what's next? And then I got to go to Japan, and then I feel like that opened up a whole nother door where it's like, oh, there's more to this. It's not just us going into these VWF halls and these bingo halls and these gymnasiums and killing ourselves in the States. It's like, there's crowds in Japan that are like thousands, and they love this style of wrestling. So it's like a whole nother avenue to go in. So, I mean, it just does nothing but motivate me a little bit more. Where that'll lead me a couple years from now, I don't know. I mean, I don't plan on wrestling forever, and I don't plan on being stuck in a wheelchair when it's done. So
yeah, I can't blame you. Is there anything left on your like deathmatch bucket list, so to speak? I mean, you've been against some of the greatest names in deathmatch wrestling, some of the biggest names outside of deathmatch wrestling too. But what's left on your deathmatch bucket list if you did have one?
I don't know if there is one. There was a really small gap where I was, the little boy was hoping that Matsunaga would, like, I want to do one more, and I was like, yes, because I've already wrestled Jun Kasai, who I feel like is the best deathmatch wrestler ever, right next to Onita. But Onita was kind of a different style of deathmatch. And I've wrestled Masashi Takeda, who I feel like currently is the best deathmatch wrestler in the world. And I've been in the ring with all the guys in the States. I wrestled some of the best in Mexico. So I feel like right now, my wrestling wise, like, it's not, for me, it's not about, oh, well, I want to wrestle this guy bucket list type thing. It's like, I want to accomplish things. Like I want to wrestle for a Japanese title, like Freedoms has the KFC title. I want to really wrestle for that, because it's not too many foreign guys get the opportunity to do stuff like that. Like, that's literally a once in a lifetime opportunity that doesn't come to Americans very often. and the GCW World Title still on my mind. I still definitely want to get an opportunity to win that. So I'm not done yet, man. But
you've been
like there's
close.
certain,
You've been damn close
yeah,
to winning
no,
it.
I am.
Yeah.
But like when I started wrestling, my goals were, hey, I wanna have a title at some point, which I got. I wanted to win a big junior heavyweight tournament, which I did.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go to Japan, which I did. Those were my 3 goals, and I didn't see anything past that. Wasn't interested in TV because I was never that type of a wrestler. I mean, were there times where I was like, maybe, but those times are far gone. And right now, like, me making at least 2 or 3 more goals isn't bad. It just gives me a reason to keep on going. It gives me something more to check off the list. But when it comes to guy wise, I don't really have a check off list because
Yeah.
I've pretty much wrestled or at least been in the ring with the who's who of deathmatch wrestling.
I feel like the GCW Championship is something that will happen for you. Well, like I said,
I hope so.
when I first saw your match, the first one I'd seen of you, I was on Fight TV, and they have a live chat with the show. And as soon as you came out, everybody in the chat was saying this dude's fucking awesome. So I stuck about for the match, and everyone was saying it's amazing how you haven't won it yet. It's only a matter of time. So I feel like you've got the support from the fans, man. Like, the people want to see you with that GCW Championship. Do you reckon you're the man to take it away from Ricky Shane Page?
I reckon I'm the man to take it away from whoever has it, regardless if Ricky Shane Page has it or Joey Janela or Nick Gage or whoever else in the company grabs it. Like, I feel like now for me, now is the time. I've definitely waited around, and people have been for a while saying, oh, well, Alex should get the title shot, and it's kind of been swept under the rug. It's not disrespectful. It's just, it is what it is. There's so many guys in the company, and everybody, and the minds are all over the place. So it's like, who's next? But it's like, I feel like sometimes I get overlooked. And now it's like, now's the time, at least for this point in my life, for this opportunity and this goal. Now's the time. If I'm to win the GCW World Heavyweight title at any point in my tenure, this moment, this time it's now. Planet Death, like, I won 2 tournament of survivals. I've been to Japan twice. I'm looking to mark some more countries off as soon as these airlines open back up.
UK, man. We want to see you in the UK.
Dude, I was there before. 2011, I did a tour of England and Germany, which I loved, and I wanted to always go back, but deathmatch wrestling was never really big out there.
It's taken off recently. Yeah, recently it's become a bit like, we've actually interviewed a few UK deathmatch wrestlers.
Big Joe.
And I didn't even know there was a scene there, and I thought that was really interesting. So once you can, man, get over here and test the deathmatch wrestlers over here.
Oh, I want to. I definitely want to go back. I loved it out there. So I'm hoping sooner or later in the future, hopefully when wrestling comes back, because England kind of fell off for a second because all the stuff on the internet.
Sure.
So hopefully when wrestling comes back, that everybody gets the structure back together, and then wrestling from all over can come back together as a whole, and then we can start all just traveling and doing our thing again.
Oh, fingers crossed, man. At the start of the interview, you mentioned one thing I thought was very important. That's deathmatch wrestling has kind of become, for lack of a better word, cool right now. Like, everyone's talking about deathmatch wrestling. And recently, AEW obviously had that exploding barbed wire deathmatch. Let's not talk about the ending. But what do you think of like a major promotion like AEW utilizing deathmatch wrestling and making it the main event of one of their pay-per-views? Do you feel like that was a good thing for deathmatch wrestling in general?
Yeah, because they're doing something different than WWE, and that's what they need to be doing is different things, and we know WWE kind of runs the same cycle storyline wise, or even what they do in the ring, and AEW kind of like doing niche stuff. It's going to give them a different look from a different section of the crowd. So deathmatch wrestling fans are going to follow that compared to following something hokey happening on the other channel. And it also gives guys who are quote unquote deathmatch wrestlers, or even hybrid wrestlers. I like to call deathmatch wrestlers hybrid wrestlers now, but like, even for hybrid wrestlers, it gives them a look to say, oh man, like, maybe I'll end up wrestling in AEW at some point, because they're not afraid to at least, like, kind of tiptoe in the water a little bit. So it might give one of us an opportunity at some point to be on TV.
I feel like there's a spot in AEW for like another deathmatch wrestler or a hybrid, as you said.
I agree.
I know there was a deathmatch wrestler in AEW at one point. Thankfully, whatever happened with him, he's gone. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a space anyway, I believe. I think there's maybe even for more than one. I know like you've got your Moxley and stuff like that, but I feel like he's kind of become, he doesn't, he's
He's
not
the whole
known for,
package.
yeah, he kind of branches out a bit sometimes, but then utilizes it when he needs to, like last time. But I do feel like there's a spot there for somebody who is a deathmatch wrestler and can bring that difference to AEW. Like you said, something different to WWE. I don't feel like WWE would ever step their toe in that pond. And
Yeah, no. Well, they had the opportunity many years ago. If you remember,
yeah,
Onita visited Stanford at one point and
really,
had a meeting with Vince McMahon. Yeah, a very long time ago. We're
wow,
talking like mid to late 90s. Onita came over to the States and he ended up having a meeting with Vince McMahon because they were going to try to do a no rope explosion match at WrestleMania between
wow.
Mick Foley and I think Terry Funk or something. I can't really remember the exact story, but that's when he came over here. He also did the ECW shot at that point. And he had the meeting with WWE, but nothing ever resonated off of it. So nothing ever kind of came of it.
Can you imagine that if Onita ended up in WWE? He'd have been the coolest motherfucker in WWE by a country mile. Like, I've never seen anyone cooler than Onita. Like,
Come out smoking a cig.
yeah, on the chair, smoking. Yeah, what a badass! Like, if there's ever been badass in wrestling, it's Onita. He's
Dude,
on my bucket
he's
list.
a rock. This dude's a rock star. Like
Yeah,
because Matt Tremont went over for him many years ago, and then there's a couple of other guys that I know I'm real close with that have met Onita and have been to eateries and bars and stuff with Onita just hanging out, and they told me he's a freaking rock star. Like he shows up in the party starting. Like it's crazy.
it's not a character. It's
No, Onita's a rock star, dude. It's crazy.
I love that, man. Like, I know there's a few wrestlers, like, you can just imagine they'd be no different outside of the ring. He's one of them. And
Yeah.
I love that about him. But yeah, before we start to wrap up, Alex, is there anything coming up? Like, I know wrestling right now has kind of taken a pause, but I know you've been able to keep somewhat regular bookings, which is fantastic. Very happy to hear that. Is there anything coming up for you, like Mania weekend or GCW?
Yeah. Mania weekend, obviously, the 4th, Planet Death. So if anyone wants to check that out, obviously check the GCW page. I'm on Twitter constantly posting about it. You can find the ticket links and such. It'll be on Fight TV. It's a 3 p.m. start time. Also, I'll be on Unsanctioned Pro, which will be happening later that night. I think they have an 8 o'clock start time, and then I'll even be on No Peace Underground at some point that same day. So I think I'm doing 3 shots in one day.
Wow.
Should be interesting.
Well, I'll be definitely watching one of those. So because we've got Fight TV, we're intending to watch as much as we can that weekend. Seems like a crazy weekend for some of the guys going down.
A lot of shows.
A lot of shows. It's going to be great for fans and the wrestlers, especially the wrestlers, to really, get together for the first time since maybe the collective in that capacity, or Fight Forever, for example. It's great to see that the independents are still thriving during the pandemic. Couldn't be happier with that. But do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on social media, and do you have any merchandise?
Yeah, you can find me at AlexCologne0139 on Twitter. I don't have an Instagram anymore. Once the pandemic hit, there was really no point in me having an Instagram, so I kind of got rid of it for a little bit.
Yeah.
My Facebook's not private, but I'm barely ever on Facebook, so your best bet's to catch me on Twitter. And I do have merchandise. I have hats, I have snapbacks, beanies, shirts, all types of stuff. Reach out to me. I'm not on a specific website yet. I can't reveal anything yet, but there's stuff coming up that soon enough there'll be Alex Cologne merchandise on actual websites.
Awesome.
So yeah, reach out to me. So yep.
Awesome, man. I'll put those links in the description. But Alex, thank you so much for coming on today. Truly a pleasure to get to speak with you. Hopefully get you on again in the future after Mania weekend. We can discuss the events that happened. But until then, Alex, we've been Ringsiders. See you soon.
Thank you.